there's one particular arcade game from my childhood that never gets any love at all. And, well, widely so, probably. When I first started going to arcades, Street Fighter 2 was already the big thing, but its most famous predecessor was still very much around. And that was, unquestionably, Atari's Pit Fighter. Released in 1990 by, well, Atari Games, ported to literally every system around at the time, retroactively mocked to high heaven whenever it's brought up. Quite possibly the least fashionable game in existence. Cause hell, maybe we'll want to forget that at the time it really wasn't. I mean, how else could it have stayed in arcades for years and got so many ports? Pit Fighter was a success, and we must accept this fact if we are to move forward as a nation and as a people. For the uninitiated, well, what exactly is Pit Fighter? It's the world's favourite illegal sport. There's all kinds of money to be made in the dangerous world of underground fighting, and it'll all be piled up on a forklift ready for you, if you're tough enough. Three fighters seem to think that they are: Tai, Kato, and Buzz. They're here, having abandoned their perfectly legitimate sports of kickboxing, karate, and professional wrestling, and they're ready to take on the best of the best in the world's best circuit. So, yeah. So far, so 1990. The inspiration from Pit Fighter is pretty clear, coming from a whole glut of low-rent action movies that dealt with the mystique of underground fighting, martial arts kumites and the like, you know, for those who are too cool for the Karate Kid. This sort of thing goes back to Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon, but Pit Fighter is more based on Jean-Claude Van Damme and Bloodsport. Actually, it's probably even more low-rent than that. Pit Fighter is based on the unremembered, theoretical Bloodsport rip-off that probably starred Michael Dudikoff. Or, I don't know, maybe Roadhouse or something. This mystique seemed to really kick off in the late 80s, for better or worse. Something about underground fighting tournaments gave American males whopping great semis. Van Damme's career-making 1988 film Bloodsport, for example, was based on the legend of Frank Dux, an American ninjutsu practitioner who went to the Far East and fought in kumites, brutal competitions where you beat someone down until they don't get up anymore. So he said anyway. Most of it was agreed by everybody to be complete bullshit, but filmmakers thought that it'd be a pretty good idea for a film anyway, and in terms of box office they were right. Not that the idea of illegal fighting circuits is bullshit, obviously. Bare-knuckle boxing has been a thing here in Britain and Ireland for hundreds of years before and after gloves, unlicensed boxing was huge in the 70s and 80s, Vale Tudo had been going in Brazil for a long time already, and hell, kumites were and are a thing. Only it means sparring in karate, and in real life people taking part in kumites don't actually try to hurt each other. It was only a couple of years after this that the first Ultimate Fighting Championship pay-per-view took place, taking mixed martial arts on the long road to legitimacy. So it's not like Frank Dux, the folks behind Bloodsport, and indeed Pit Fighter weren't onto something. People want to see other people getting beat up, people want to make believe that they are the people doing the beating up. If you're doing the beating up, the girls will love you and the guys will want to fight you, and then when you beat them up, the girls will love you more. Isn't testosterone fun? Seedy shit aside, Pit Fighter tries to make the action as real as you could possibly get in 1990. It does this with digitized sprites, hell yeah. Big digitized sprites too. The fighters are all played by real people, thus making the action that little bit nastier and your semi a little bit harder. Yes, you stereotypical man who's playing Pit Fighter right now. Pit Fighter is undoubtedly the most famous game to use digitized sprites before the arrival of Mortal Kombat, although it wasn't the first. You can find digitized sprites, or at least digitized faces, all the way back in the hilariously craptacular Journey game from 1983, and more recently they'd been found in Williams' ultra-seedy 1989 War on Drugs epic, Narc. However, it is largely agreed to be the first fighting game that uses digitized sprites, and it certainly does so with gusto. So does the inclusion of real people with names and everything make the fighting action fun at all? No. Oh god no, it doesn't. Pit Fighter is hilarious now and kind of impactful then and kind of good in terms of presentation, but in execution it's a massive dog. The digitized sprites look good when no one's around, basically. When you have them interact with each other, it's a complete mess. The hit detection is non-existent, and fighters seem to move around each other in a way that makes a 3-year-old knocking LJN WWF figures together look like Austin vs Hitman at WrestleMania by comparison. And the moves are just, well, ugh. Playing Pit Fighter requires basically no strategy. You mash buttons and hope that something hits. Being an arcade game, it's also a total credit sponge. The difficulty is very tough, and honestly the best you can hope for is to get a decent amount of a guy's energy bar off before doing a bit more on the next credit, and so on. A lot of arcade games are like this, but games like this that are so blatant with it can just frankly sod off. All that said, Pit Fighter does do a lot of things that a lot of beat-em-ups weren't doing then. It's kind of like Taito's Violence Fight, but a lot more spectacular. Weapons litter a playing field, from knives and the ever-typical throwing stars to barrels and frickin' motorcycles that you can chuck at your opponent. Every fight takes place in a crowd of people who'll often chuck weapons in, or push fighters back in, and hell, some of them might even step out of the crowd and have a go on occasion. This does add a little bit to the game's atmosphere. You even get power pills in barrels, which will beef you right up and double your damage. I mean, I guess that could be a stand-in for PCP? I don't know. Narc would not approve. So yeah, the game is a mess. But my god, the hilarious presentation does make it all worth it somewhat. Just look at all the people you're fighting against. Every one of them is hilarious. There's the Fat Gimp Executioner, the honestly not taking all this seriously Southside Jim, 80s LA Guns video extra Angel, biker wannabe nun percenter CC Rider, Heavy Metal, who might be wearing a dead squirrel on his head like some punk Davy frickin' Crockett, Mad Miles, the Vietnam vet who spits at people and honestly might just be one of the game's programmers due to how weedy he looks, Chainman Eddie, who fights wearing nothing but chains and tighty whities, and the final Ultimate Warrior himself. Super Gimp, the bad guy from a thankfully unmade Kiss-based video game that was cancelled, so in all likelihood he ended up here instead. It's all just a joy, and it never stops being frickin' funny. Even the manuals for the game's myriad of ports get into it, describing events such as one Pit Fighter literally jumping off a multi-storey car park to avoid fighting the Ultimate Warrior, or Heavy Metal breaking someone's bones because they laughed at his hair, or CC Rider enjoying getting into bar brawls in his spare time, as opposed to what he does in his day job obviously. The game rounds all of this off with big clanny music, phrases like "awesomely done" and "totally studly" as a forklift truck lifts you and your cash up to the skies after a win, and all the girls crowding around you when you finally beat the Ultimate Warrior and someone out there makes it rain. Yeah, this is Pit Fighter. Obnoxious, grotesque, over-testosteroned, utterly rubbish, and utterly hilarious, certainly in 2015. It wasn't exactly treated like that at the time. It was a popular arcade machine, and some critics gave it pretty spectacular notices and scores. I always remember back in the arcades that the Pit Fighter machine would be crowded. Honestly, it was. I guess you could point at Street Fighter 2 not quite being out yet, which is true. No one serious was going to play Pit Fighter much after that, but still it was a thing for a while. And maybe, just maybe, the success of Pit Fighter was one of the fins that drew Midway towards making Mortal Kombat. Because surely if Pit Fighter had been the utterly pilloried flop that most people paint it as being these days, no one else would have bothered with digitized sprites in a fighting game again. You'd have thought that anyways. Obviously Mortal Kombat isn't worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as Pit Fighter, it's actually a good game for a start. But still, Pit Fighter was kin for a day, and then it was a fool for a lifetime. But we're hardly done yet though. As mentioned, Pit Fighter had tons of ports. Virtually every system around at the time got a port of the game, with the odd exception of the NES. In fact, there's few games that I remember being ported more than frickin' Pit Fighter was. It seems only fair that we look at every single one of them. At least very quickly, because, well, we don't want to think about the consequences of what we're doing in too much detail. Just play through the pain. Let's start with the computer versions. The Amiga's first up and, well, it kind of sets an okay early benchmark. The main issue is only having one button, meaning that control is based on using the button and a direction. Forget about jumping, it's bloody ridiculous. But the look isn't too bad compared to the arcades, it's not totally unplayable, and the music is alright. It's merely a bad game. Mediocre at best. The MS-DOS version on the other hand, oh, holy shit. Leaving aside how much of a nightmare this was to record, the speed is just horrid and the controls? Broken. You see Buzzlair? I'm actually playing as him using my mouse. No lie. Have you ever played a fighting game using a mouse? It's, well, it's interesting. It was preferable to playing as Ty with the pad, seeing as I couldn't even freaking hit anything or do anything. This is horrific. Anyway, how does something less powerful fare? The C64 goes up next. It's small, chunky, has the same sort of controls as the Amiga version and the like. Not terrible really, and the underpowered C64 doesn't do too bad a job with the game. There's nothing particularly wretched of note here. But there's more. A ZX Spectrum version of Pit Fighter. Yep. The first thing to note is that this comes with a fantastic soundtrack through the game. That frickin' furnace, no less. And that's the only good thing. The game's controls are completely gone. I'm not sure if this is an emulator issue or what, because I had this game back in the day and I don't remember it being this broken. Hell, I remember that once, back in the day, I got all the way to the Ultimate Warrior on this game. Legit. 7-year-old me was obviously pretty good at this. How on earth did I do that though? I mean, look at it! It's just obvious that Pit Fighter can't go on the Spectrum. I barely need to say anything. But if you want the exact same version of the game but with slightly different colours, the same awesome music, but somehow even slower and less responsive, you can also play it on the Amstrad CPC, thus setting a new low for the ports. Both games being the same shouldn't be a surprise. They were released in 1991 when, honestly, nobody truly gave a shit about either of these machines. And finally, there's the Atari ST port. This contains a mix of the graphics from the Amiga version and the awesome Furnace soundtrack from the Specky version, which should theoretically create the perfect computer pit fighter. Alas no. It's really slow too, controls are dodgy even for this game, and it's just not as good as the Amiga version. It runs like absolute dog shit. And so, the Amiga version stands tall as the best computer port of Pit Fighter of all time in a, well, not exactly awesomely done performance, but at least I don't want to wash my eyes out in acid. Next up, handhelds, of which there are two. It shouldn't come as any surprise that Pit Fighter appeared on the Atari Lynx. Hell, one of the selling points of the machine is that it can do an okay Pit Fighter. No wonder it was a flop. And surprisingly enough, it sort of can. It's a bloody hard version of the game, but all the graphical features, including sprite scaling, are pretty much intact and it looks very busy. It's still a rubbish game at the end of the day, but a lot of effort went into it. And then there's the Game Boy version. Oh boy. So far, none of the ports of the game have actually lost anything, not even the Spectrum ones. This does, losing half the cast of enemies. The immediate horrible thing about this version is that it gives you one life. That's all there is. Pit Fighter is a hard game in general, but to have to do it on one life? That's a fucking insult. The game can't even provide a damn energy bar. However, don't worry, the game also has a superb bug that's in your favour. Play as Ty, hold select to crouch, and then hammer B to kick, drop in frames of animation and kick in way faster than normal. Do this for 15 minutes, and you'll win. You'll also see every enemy fighter twice, Executioner, Angel, Chainman Eddie, and in the most glorious game stretchy fuck you will fight CC Wider no less than 4 times. Cause he just can't take the hint, can he? Holy shit, this port is horrendous. One of the worst ever, a gob in the face on anyone who was unfortunate enough to buy it. Needless to say, the Atari Lynx version is a lot better. Finally, there's the free console versions. First up, Master System. This one's kind of weird. It moves very smooth, the music isn't anything like the other versions, and it is super small. There's a lot of things about it that just don't feel at all like Pit Fighter, whether it's having to go back to the start of a fight when you die, or being limited in the amount of special moves you can do, whereas you can do it in the arcade willy-nilly. It's odd. It's even kind of playable, although still rather awful, and it's probably the port that feels the least like the original. Then there's the Mega Drive port. This is also kind of small, but there is a little bit of scaling, and the arcade controls are fully intact. The music, and I've never not enjoyed the original Earl Vickers soundtrack, is also largely here, as is every bad guy, every weapon, pretty much everything about the original arcade aside from the watered down graphics. Pit Fighter on the Mega Drive is often regarded as the best port of the game, and I wouldn't disagree at all. There's this, and then there's the Amiga version. And they're both totally mediocre games, but they're the best you'll get when it comes to Pit Fighter in the home. And finally, there's the SNES version. Oh boy. Just out of interest, Domark handled most of the home ports we've seen, but the Nintendo ones were special. They were given over to THQ. And wow. With the Game Boy version you expect some things to be missing. It's such a teeny system. You don't expect it with the SNES. You don't expect this game to be missing half the characters, you don't expect it to be missing all of the weapons, you don't expect it to have virtually no music aside from a single loop, you don't expect it to screw you over by giving you just one life to complete the game. It's the same game as the Game Boy version, including having to face CC Wider 4 times. The only difference is that this is in colour. And they still can't pull off the expert coding challenge of making a fucking energy bar. Imagine renting this. I did, and pretty much persuaded my dad to take me back to the store within the frickin' hour. Worse still, imagine paying 50 frickin' quid to buy the thing. I'm sure somebody did. Oh my lord. This is, without question, the worst arcade port ever. It's by far the worst of the Pit Fighter ports, including all of the computer ones, and it's also almost certainly the worst game ever released on the SNES, or indeed in the whole 16-bit era. I mean, Pit Fighter is not a good game, obviously, but this takes it above and beyond, straight into the depths of hell. One of the most hilariously incompetent and insulting games ever released by anybody. Whew, that's over. There does exist a prototype of an Atari 7800 version of the game which kind of looks as you would expect, but I don't usually make it my business to scorch unfinished games, and honestly, even in its prototype state it's probably Street Fighter 2 when compared to the SNES version. But there you have it, all the ways that you can play Pit Fighter in the home. Ooh. And surprisingly there isn't all that much else. Pit Fighter was a popular arcade, and the digitized sprites it revelled in became even more popular after the launch of Mortal Kombat, resulting in tons of fighting games following in its footsteps. Atari certainly made a few more similar games too. There's the comically awful 1992 game Guardians of the Hood, one of the schlockiest arcade games ever, and that could be considered as a spiritual successor to Pit Fighter. Plus they also created one of the more famous Mortal Kombat rip-offs, 1994's Primal Rage. But nah, Pit Fighter never truly resurfaced. Indeed, pretty much nothing else has ever made any kind of reference to it, almost as if it was a period that everyone wanted to forget. It's like the last truly popular days of hair metal, you know? No one wants to think about the spandex, or the gimp suits, or the inexplicable Kung Fu Zubaz pants and hair hats. But they were there, and you will remember now, forever and ever. One day, you'll thank me for it. Bye for now.